Alright, what's up everybody? It's your boy Akeem from the Football Source, here to give you some fantasy tips for tonight's key matchup between the Washington Redskins hosting the New York Giants. I'm going to talk about all the key players that you need to use for this week in fantasy play for tonight's matchup. I'm going to start off at the quarterback position. Kirk Cousins of the Washington Redskins. Now last week he blew up against the Philadelphia Eagles with 41 points, and with the home field advantage for Washington, I think that Cousins can get you at least 30 points against a poor Giants defense who don't really play too well against the pass. I think that Kirk Cousins is going to take advantage of them. Now let's go to the opposite side with Eli Manning. Now he finally showed a little bit of spark last week with 18 fantasy points with his leading target in Victor Cruz. I think both these two players can be worthy for a start, but let's talk about Eli Manning first. I think if you have him as a backup and you need to use that backup, because there's a couple of quarterbacks who will be missing this week, like Andy Dalton from the Cincinnati Bengals. He has a bye this week, as well as the Arizona Cardinals and quarterback Carson Palmer, who could be due coming back for next week. And I think both of these two players, because they're gone, a good, excellent backup I think that could be used this week is Eli Manning. If you have to use him, go right ahead. But if you can still bench him, keep him on the bench. At the running back position, Alfred Morris of the Washington Redskins. He does a fabulous job running the football, particularly in home field advantage. I think he's going to blow up this week. At least 16 fantasy points running all over that Giants defense. Like I said before, they play horrendously. They have been playing poor this season. Now, opposite of for the New York Giants, a little bit of concern for Rashad Jennings, the running back for the G-Man. Now, he is definitely carries most of the workload, and he is a workhorse running back. But last week against the Philadelphia Eagles and their star running back, LaShawn McCoy, the Washington held McCoy to 19 carries for just 22 yards. And I think they could be doing the same and keying on Rashad Jennings in running the football. Jennings actually rushed for 176 yards and a touchdown last week, and the Washington Redskins definitely have that in mind. And even though I think you should still start Rashad Jennings, it is still a sleeper concern of a player that you might want to bench. But I think you should go right ahead and start Rashad Jennings as the number 2 running back, because he's not only a good workhorse running the football, but he's also a useful back and catching the football outside the backfield. I still think he could post up at least 12 points in fantasy play this week against that Washington defense. Headed over to the wide receiver position, Pierre Garçon of the Washington Redskins. I told you guys last week, go right ahead and start Pierre Garçon, because Kirk Cousins is at the helm at quarterback. And with Cousins at quarterback, and I said this before, when Cousins is at quarterback, Pierre Garçon is a phenomenal receiver, at least a top 3 receiver. Pierre Garçon posted up 19 points last week in fantasy play. I'm very proud of him, and I think he's a definite start this week and possibly the leading target this week for Kirk Cousins. And same for Deshaun Jackson. He blew up last week as well against the Eagles. I think that because Kirk Cousins is at quarterback and he's the better pocket passer, the better throwing quarterback between him and RG3 as of today, I think that Kirk Cousins is going to use all of his receivers. LaShawn McCoy and Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garçon will be good starting receivers this week. Now for the New York Giants, Victor Cruz finally blew up last week with 16 points, and because of that, I think you should use him more as a flex player, possibly at best a number 2 receiver, but I see him more as a flex player. I'm not 100% bought on Victor Cruz, even though he finally had a good performance last week. I'm not 100% bought on Victor Cruz, so I think at best you could use him as a flex position player for fantasy play this week. Now headed over to the defensive positions, I think that Washington defense can be used as a decent start this week. I think they could give you at least 7 safe points in fantasy play. Now for the Giants defense, definitely do not start them, but we're talking about Washington's defense. I think they could post up at least 7 points in fantasy play, even though I think that Eli Manning can give you some good valuable points. I think the defense could make enough big plays to hold up at least 7 safe fantasy points. But if you have a better defense, go right ahead and start over the Washington Redskins. But if you're looking for a safe defense, I think that Washington Redskins can post up at least 7 points in fantasy play. So that wraps things up for today, tonight's matchup. But the next time I'm going to catch you guys will be on Saturday, where I will talk about all the remaining players for this week's key matchup that you should start and bench for week 4 of the fantasy football season. Thank you for watching this blog from the Football Source. I'm your man Akeem McCall. Be easy.